And thank you for having this forum. As you all know, I am Sheila Lyons, and I am running for state senate here for the Cape and Islands. And on several issues, there are many that we face here on the Cape, but one is economic development, and economic development that provides quality economic development that will create sustainable jobs, not just a project that is being built and when it's over we're still in the same trouble, but sustainable economic development that is quality and has respect to our environment, that protects the precious resource that we all are here for. I think that we have to have someone that understands the healthcare issues that are facing those of us who are seniors. Our population is, there's 35% of the people who reside on Cape Cod are 55 and older. And we need to have someone that is aware of the problems that they will be facing. That number is according to studies on second homeowners, it could double in the next 20 years. And we need to be able to be prepared for that and aware of that and have the services available to meet the needs that those numbers dictate to us. That we are a cash cow for the state, and yet we get very little back. And we have inequitable funding streams across the board, but particularly in our schools. We need to be able to have families who have good jobs here, who can afford the housing that is available, and also have a good education for their children. And with the formulas that we have under Chapter 70, it's not equitable, and we need a strong voice to fight with our Cape delegation, to partner there with Cleon Turner, who is probably the most vocal voice in our delegation on that issue, and I would be a partner with him on that. Many of you know that I was born and raised in South Boston, and I come from people who were part of that greatest generation. People who went to war and came home and did not have a formal education, but had the education of heart and spirit and the belief in this country. And recently I had my kickoff at the JFK Museum, and I did that because I felt that it was the words of those gentlemen, particularly John and Bobby when I was young, that really spoke to me and inspired me as a child to public service, and that we are part of something that is greater than ourselves, and we have to give back. So that is the reason I had that there, and that's the way I was raised. My parents were ordinary people. They were working people. My father worked 4 jobs to give my brother and I an education. My mother was a banquet waitress and she was one of the first women to have the bartender waiters union change and accept women. So I was going over there every Friday as a child over those union halls and watching her fight that fight. But they were great parents, and I was very lucky to be born to them. And what they gave me was love of country, love of community, and love of God, and a dedication to public service and doing for others. And this is all imprinted in my DNA under the title Democrat, because first and foremost, I was a Democrat almost before I was a Catholic. So, as I grew older, I did become a social worker. I did participate in my community. I was politically active as a child. I was politically active as a young adult, but I went into social work because I wanted to make a difference. And I wanted to help people have better lives. And my focus was on geriatrics, and I have 15 years of working, almost 20 years, of working with older people. First in the community of South Boston, then in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where I worked for the Health and Hospitals, and then in Maryland. And my work comes from working with people in their homes and trying to help them get services, and also in the long-term care industry, where I would meet with families struggling with how to meet the needs of their aging parents, either access home health care or long-term care, or just being able to live independently as long as they could in their own home. So I'm very familiar with these issues, and they're issues, again, that we are facing in the majority of our population. time for the stakeholders, for the elected officials representing you, to no longer send a person from the DPW or a citizen volunteer to sort of hash out problems that need a much more responsive figure to take care of them. To have selectmen at this board, to have them be responsible to you is something that we felt was very, very important, because ultimately it's going to be your tax dollars that will end up paying for this system. But as county commissioner, I felt that something had to be done before the issue became polarized and before the issue became sort of at a fever pitch where no one was really hearing what could be done. We were acting from fear and not facts. So as my last act as chair, we were able to pass a Cape-wide DCPC, and that is done to put a moratorium and a freeze on any renewable economic development that occurs out in those waters prior to the 15 towns coming together and working out what they want out there and how they want it to be regulated. This is a chance for local control, and I think that if we have learned anything from the process of wind farms or local wind, it is local control that was missing in that process. And this was to ensure that you had a voice, that you had a say what went on in those waters. Both in the past years, both this year and last year, the House budget was more dramatically cut than the governor's. And I think that's because the purview and the responsibility of a balanced budget comes and falls on them. And they are looking at the realities on the ground. There is not a lot of money, and I think there's a lot of choices that have to be made. Now, I believe that we have, even having said that, it still is inequitable coming here to the Cape, and we have to protect our institutions here in the Cape, particularly our schools, whether they be higher ed or our secondary schools here. It's an easy way out. It's an easy fix instead of having to deal with the hard issue. And the hard issue is that we have no revenue. And in part it is a moral issue, and in part it is just the wrong thing to do. And I'm not sure if we're supporting our neighboring, states or whatever by having trips down there, but I think it's ironic. But anyway, and I like gambling, and I love blackjack and all of that, but I just don't think it's the right way to go. And there is the discussion that no one wants to take, and believe me, I am not one who wants to jack up everybody's taxes, but I think that there are adult conversations that we should be having in Beacon Hill that are avoided. So we are stuck with casinos. Well, once again, I will ask you for your support, and I do feel that although I think Dan and I are philosophically aligned in many, many areas, I think that there are definitely differences between us. And one is business experience versus political experience. They're two different skill sets, and I believe that I have the political skills and the political determination to carry forward the issues that are important to us. And I understand issues on a very personal level, from having to struggle through different times in my life to seeing and working with people who have done the same. So I feel very passionately about this, and I ask you for your support, and I thank you for having us both here.